Well, it's that time of year, people. Kalvin Phillips to Leeds. We get that. It's like every few months. But a strong rumor appeared, I think, yesterday or a couple of days ago. So I'm here to speak about that. And because I'm a generous guy, I'm also going to throw in Aaron Ramsdale too, who we've been recently loosely linked with. But I'm just going to throw him in the same pot because the answer is the same for both. Let me just tell you now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, of course, drop your comments below. Thank you to all super thanks donators. Mr. P donated on the last one. Thank you to all members of the channel. Big up to you for that support. But what I will say here, because this happens every time you talk about Kalvin Phillips returning to Leeds. If you're of a passion merchant nature, if you're one of those that will get misty-eyed upon a reunion between Phillips and Leeds, I'm not going to say anything you want to hear. So just click away now. And even though I've just said that, there'll still be people in the comments saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You can do job. You can do job. So I'm aware. I know the game. I know the game. But listen, let's talk about this because it's popped up again, hasn't it? Kalvin Phillips. Recently linked with a move back, apparently terms agreed if Leeds United get promoted. It was the same last summer. If we had got promoted, it was between us and Ipswich Town. And obviously Kalvin would have stayed in the Premier League. Completely get that. It's career first, understandable. But apparently what the papers are saying is that Kalvin Phillips, if Leeds are promoted, will be returning on a 20 million deal, and he will accept reduced wages as he is desperate to come back. Right, let's just say all of that is true. If Kalvin Phillips is to return to the football club, the 49ers will be no better than Radrizzani or Victor Orta. They'll be no better. They're not looking at this from a pure footballing point of view. They'd be looking at this from this will get fans on side. This will be a nice romantic story upon our return to the Premier League, getting Kalvin Phillips back. But this is not Kalvin Phillips under Bielsa anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. Here comes the truth. Here comes the truth about Kalvin Phillips. First of all, let me say this. When he was here at Leeds United, I was a big fan of Kalvin. He was brilliant for Leeds United. Absolutely brilliant. Even when Bielsa left, he had his injury problems, which, hasn't stopped. He had his injury problems, but when he played, you could see he made a big difference, okay? But the other truth is that was over 4 years ago now. We're talking a long time ago, and he was injury prone then, and it hasn't changed. He still has fitness issues now, even to the point where his weight gets called into question, which was still a thing at Leeds United, by the way. That's nothing new. Even though Bielsa did have extreme measures when it came to players' bodies, he was accused of not following a diet then. It happened at Man City. He then goes on loan to West Ham. First game has an absolute disaster class, but you don't judge him by his first game. But what you can judge him is what David Moyes used him for the remainder of the season, and he hardly saw any action in the last 4 games of the Premier League season for West Ham. They couldn't wait for the loan to finish. He's now gone to Ipswich Town, and I tell you what, people, he's been, say average, is probably being generous. I ask people this. Kalvin Phillips, with the reputation that he has or had, he should be going to Ipswich Town this season and making a name for himself and saying, not to the point that Man City want him back or regret that he's not there because Rodri isn't there. First of all, you haven't heard that one time. What else you haven't heard is other clubs around the Premier League circling around Kalvin Phillips upon Ipswich's relegation. That should be another red flag for you, for a player of what his stature was, how important he was in that England setup once upon a time. You haven't heard that because he hasn't been good. That's the truth. And even on the reduced wages he'd come back at in a 20 million deal, I just don't feel like Leeds United should be the ones to take the chance on him on a permanent deal, because we will be stuck with that contract until it finishes. No doubt about it. Because he won't want to leave again. He's got his medals, and fair play to him. He's got his medals at Man City. He plays sporadic football. I think he's played 19 games so far for Ipswich Town, and not all of them have been starts. Guys, we need experience in the Premier League, that's for sure. But there's other experienced players you can get for cheap, for way cheaper than this, and without that attachment where it will be the same thing that we've got with Meslier this season. Anything that he will do in a lead shirt, whether he passes correctly 5 yards to his left or right, it will be like, oh, what a pass. Oh, Calv, what a pass. And we can't have that. We cannot go back to having emotional attachments. This is where you have to clean the slate. And getting back Kalvin Phillips for me, look, if it was a loan and he's a squad player, maybe there's something there. But I would ask this also: does he get ahead of Ethan Ampadu at this stage in 2025? Talking, if you're talking a few years ago when Kalvin was at the top of his game, Kalvin Phillips clears Ampadu, and it's not even close. But we're talking 2025. Does this version of Kalvin Phillips get ahead of Ethan Ampadu? I would say no. Okay. And I wouldn't risk Ethan Ampadu taking him out in order to facilitate Kalvin Phillips to come in. I wouldn't. So that is my stance on Kalvin Phillips. And if you go back to other videos I've made, it hasn't changed. In fact, it's more stronger now because he's just getting a year older. By the time December hits the next season or this calendar year, he'll be 30 years old, and he's had injury problems in his 20s. The contract would age like milk. For me, it's a solid no. You can go elsewhere. There are other midfielders out there way better, cheaper, can give you more. And listen, will the passion be there? One thing in his favor: will the home cooking be more to his liking? As in, he's playing for Leeds again. Could he perform better? Absolutely, that could be a thing. But I don't think it's worth the risk with this player. So for me, it's a solid no. Next one, it's a solid no for is Aaron Ramsdale. And again, this is on the goalkeeper. I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. My reasons are very simple. He's an average goalkeeper, and for me, he does not. Is he an improvement on Meslier? Sure, he is, but that doesn't say a lot to me because there's championship goalkeepers I could say are improvements on Elan Meslier. For me, there's no point losing Elan Meslier to replace him with Ramsdale. And I look at it this way: do I feel comfortable with either of those guys in goal for us in the Premier League? Absolutely not. Do I think either guy saves us from relegation? Absolutely not. So why take out Elan Meslier for what we're going to sell him for, around 10 million, maybe 15 at best, to then replace him with 25 million Aaron Ramsdale? No. There are other goalkeepers out there. Again, there are other goalkeepers out there that are cheaper and I feel give you more of a chance of staying up just with their all-round ability. Aaron Ramsdale's weaknesses have come to the fore again at Southampton like they did at Sheffield United. And I saw him constantly at Sheffield United. He'd do this thing where he'd dive after the ball's gone in and over again. And by the way, let's just say we are one of the worst teams in the Premier League next season. Let's just say that we are. He's not going to do any better for us than he did for Sheffield United or than he's currently doing now for Southampton. There's just no point. So for me, there are other goalkeepers that I'm not going to name just yet that you can go and get that have got a more of a chance of being a more solid base for you at the back than spending 25 million great British pounds on Aaron Ramsdale. Another one as well, and I've said it on many streams before, and I'll say it again. The fact that the guy came out and said that he does not concentrate for a 90-minute game, you can't have that. You know what? There's probably many goalkeepers that think the same, but the fact that he come out and said it, Ian Wright's face said it all. I implore you to go and watch the clip. Even Ian Wright was looking at him like, yeah. He was like, oh. To say that you can't concentrate for 90 minutes and for us, we're going to need every bit of concentration, every bit of effort we can get next season if we're to go up to the Premier League, just no for me. Just a straight up no. And this will be for the people that are just going by name. I want you to go and watch the players. Don't just go by name because you know of Kalvin Phillips, because you know of Aaron Ramsdale. Go and watch a couple of games. Go and watch some highlights of theirs or lowlights. Mix it up. Go and watch them and go, oh, okay, maybe that's not what I thought it would be given the name value. Don't get fooled by the name. Listen, he had 3 good months at Arsenal, and even Mikel Arteta said, you know what, man, David Raya, I need you. Come back. Come in. I'm coming for you. 27 million, I'll spend it again. And and just for context, we are not Arsenal. We are not at that level. But I'm saying he had a few good months at Arsenal, and he did say I'm giving him his credit. But his eventual ways came back again, where he's a shaky keeper, he's not commanding, and his shot stopping is not great. So that just it equals disaster, as Scott Steiner would say. But listen, people, that is the video. I will be back for the match reaction tonight. And if you're watching this after tonight, it's for the match reaction for Leeds United versus Millwall. Join me then. And I'll see you in the next one, people. Peace out. No to both. Please do better, 49ers.